In this bizarre passage of time, Casey was shocked to realize her son had grown into a human, not the invincible little monster he once was. However, Casey smiled as she changed Adam's not home to Adam's home on the calendar, curling up in her blanket. She cautiously pushed open her son's door, laying down a carpet by the bed, her face bathed in the dim light with a serene smile. Casey's change left her husband estranged, her son more unique, only one felt no oddity. Her wandering brother Sean, whom Casey always turned to for talking when her mood sighed. After all, he was her blood-related little bro who always had a knack for lifting her spirits. On the flip side, Casey felt the urge to fulfill her sisterly duties because her brother was a certifiable weirdo, constantly wandering out. He'd either wear a plastic bag on his head to promote environmentalism or hang from a tree shouting about resource conservation. Even when Casey force-fed him to a restaurant, I'd only eat leftovers and had this strange grudge against money that left her both amused and exasperated. To keep her brother out of trouble, Casey often brought him food and clothes, fibbing that they were leftover items destined for the bin, a true quirky guardian. This seemingly carefree guy could see right through Casey's little thoughts and decided to chat with brother-in-law Paul, leading to Paul storming out the next day clad in all his clothes. Fuming silently, Paul pedaled away like a tornado, while Casey watched her husband's back with a mix of helplessness and heartache. The only one feeling sorry for her was her faithful dog, who stuck by her side every day, truly her tireless comrade. Casey couldn't pin down the reason, so she'd repeatedly sent the dog back to the neighbors. Perhaps they were slowly surrendering. They gradually ceased thinking about how to deal with it, but Casey had to return the dog yet again. Perhaps it's just one twist of fate after it. Casey's tandem bike, covered in dust, made her call Adam, jumping like a kid about that summer. They had ridden this very bike, their laughter echoing, reminiscing about those happy moments. Together they soared with the wind, unrestrained, as if they'd returned to their blissfully innocent childhood, reminiscing again and again. Casey remembered riding this bike to grab ice cream, hoping her son would join her for one more ride, only to get turned down again. So, she turned to her brother for help, but Sean said no too, and though those familiar faces lingered, no one was left to ride along with her. No one saw that the little mischievous hands looked ahead, yearning for new friends, with bitterness bubbling inside. The next morning, Casey woke up with a tingle in her feet, only to find herself being stared at by two familiar faces. Just as she was about to say go back, there walked in her hubby, Paul, bearing flowers, still puzzled. He didn't get why things had changed so much, but he knew he couldn't lose his wife. Love truly ran deep. Watching her walk back home, she feigned needing to take the dog out, and didn't respond. To keep the house from feeling lonely, Casey invited Sean and a student over for dinner. To her delight, her brother had somehow scored a new girlfriend, shock and all. At the dinner table, Sean kicked over a stool, nearly sending Casey tumbling. The two goofing off instantly broke the summer mood. However, as they sat back down, watching them chat enthusiastically, Casey felt like an outsider. Luckily, the dog returned under the table, and when it was time to part, Casey gifted her brother the bike. Closing the door, Casey tiptoed, peering through the leaves, as if time had turned back to that warm summer. As she entered, she noticed a colorful patch of shells laid on the floor. What a delightful surprise. The shells stretched into the living room where her son sat on the beach, kneeling down dramatically as if proposing. Tears blurred her vision as she felt both touched and soft-hearted by her husband's efforts. Still, she wasn't that girl anymore. She just wanted her husband to genuinely change, not be the big child who cluttered the floor with sand. However, once again things ended awkwardly, and as Casey was backing out, she accidentally bumped the dog. At the hospital, remorseful Casey kept apologizing to Marlene, who asked calmly. Casey's face went pale as it dawned on her. Marlene's husband had passed away from cancer, and the dog had been there for months. Thus, Marlene became the first to know about Casey's condition, as Casey found someone to confide in. From then on, their friendship blossomed into a bond as deep as a well, with the seemingly cold neighbor hiding a warm heart. She not only gifted her husband's suit to Sean, but also pulled the grandma trick to get Adam out of a police scrape by making him clean her yard for cheap. She understood the pressure and pain that Casey bore, knowing all too well how daunting facing death could be, wanting to lessen her burdens in any way. One day, Casey excitedly approached her son to invite him to the annual bathtub race, her enthusiasm infectious. Adam initially declined, but changed his mind when he heard Dad would join, leaving Casey over the moon. The family quickly gathered, effortlessly tossing aside all their woes, laughter echoing like the good old days. Without pain, without distance, until the sun was setting, Casey finally found Marlene. Earlier that day at the hospital, Casey learned she had a cyst that needed removal, and she hoped Marlene could pick her up after the surgery. Marlene agreed, but urged Casey to come clean when necessary. She couldn't keep it up forever. On race day, Casey invited her brother and Marlene to come watch, eagerly teaching Marlene to use a camera to capture the magic of the moment. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe.